All right, an update now to that sad breaking news we've been following. Legendary Grand Ole Opry member Little Jimmy Dickens has died.
For decades, the mysterious disappearance of Jimmy Dickens had baffled investigators, obsessed amateur sleuths, and unsettled a global public hungry for answers. Dickens, a well-known adventurer and philanthropist, had vanished under bizarre circumstances during a solo expedition through the Arctic Circle in 1994. His final transmission, a brief, cryptic radio message intercepted by a passing cargo ship, was the last verifiable sign of his existence. Despite exhaustive searches, international cooperation, and advanced technology, nothing ever emerged. No trace of his body, no remnants of his gear, and no clue concrete enough to form a working theory. That is, until now. Before we start, hit the like and subscribe buttons for more exclusive news. The breakthrough came not through military-grade surveillance or private detective work, but as a result of a sweeping climate shift that exposed a portion of the ice shelf untouched for centuries. A geological research team from Norway, conducting an unrelated survey on permafrost degradation, stumbled upon a battered but intact tent, partially embedded in the now melting ice. Inside were Dickens's personal effects, his journal, sat phone, a collection of compact tapes, and chillingly, a weathered satchel containing samples of something entirely unexpected. At first glance, it seemed like just another abandoned Arctic site, perhaps from a less famous explorer. But when the journal's first pages were examined and Dickens's name appeared in scrawled, frozen ink, the implications were immediate and global. The contents of that journal have since upended assumptions not only about Dickens's final journey, but also about long-held beliefs concerning the Arctic's geographical history. Dickens had not simply disappeared due to weather or a random accident. Instead, he had stumbled upon what he described as an impossible structure, a massive underground chamber of non-natural origin beneath the northernmost tip of Greenland. He wrote of descending into a chasm after noticing symmetrical ridges emerging from the ice. Beneath that ice, he claimed to find corridors, filled not with ancient tools or bones, but with what appeared to be technological components far beyond modern engineering. The entries grew increasingly erratic yet detailed, suggesting his mental state was slipping as he remained isolated. However, the consistency of technical observation, the alignment of magnetic anomalies, the configuration of reflective surfaces, the energy signature that interfered with his equipment, has since been corroborated by scientific review of the location's current magnetic field. What makes Dickens's discovery so earth-shattering isn't merely the implication of lost civilization or alien origin, though both have naturally stirred immense speculation. The samples he stored in his satchel have been under analysis since the announcement, and early results suggest the presence of synthetic isotopes not found anywhere on Earth. Not only are they synthetic, but they also exhibit properties that defy existing models of atomic behavior. They remain stable at both cryogenic and high-energy states, hinting at energy manipulation techniques beyond current science. These materials, which Dickens had only the rudimentary tools to describe, appear capable of conducting power at nearly zero loss, something researchers have been striving toward for decades. The discovery sent immediate shockwaves through the scientific community. Geophysicists, quantum theorists, and materials engineers have all acknowledged that the implications challenge foundational assumptions. If Dickens was right, and so far, every finding has leaned toward his journal's accuracy, then the Arctic isn't merely a frozen frontier. It may be the capstone of something long buried, perhaps even intentionally hidden. The exact nature of the structure he described remains inaccessible, as his last entries record a violent shift in the ice and a collapse that seemingly trapped him. Yet the mapped route in his notes has provided explorers with coordinates that have now been validated by ground-penetrating radar. A far more unsettling implication comes from a series of audio recordings recovered from the tapes in Dickens' gear. They chronicle his voice in various states of excitement and fear, but one particular segment has been authenticated by acoustic analysts as being untouched and genuine. In it, Dickens describes a low-frequency hum that began the moment he entered the chamber, one that seemed to vibrate the bones, not the ears. This hum was captured on the tape, and after digital enhancement, it revealed a pattern that was mathematical in nature, not random vibration, not a natural sound, but a structured pulsing code. That code, now being analyzed by cryptographers and computer scientists, appears to follow a recursive sequence not based on human linguistic logic, but on prime intervals of geometric origin. The implications are staggering. If this sound was indeed generated by the chamber or by something within it, and if it encodes information, then Dickens may have stumbled upon not just a lost technological repository, but a form of communication never before encountered. Some have hypothesized it could be a beacon or warning system. Others suggest it may be part of an ancient mechanism designed to respond only to certain environmental conditions perhaps returning due to ongoing climate change. What is absolutely certain is that the final confirmation of Dickens's fate, and the items he left behind, have shattered the boundaries between history, geology, and speculative science. The idea that a lone man, without fanfare, could have documented a discovery so potentially paradigm-shifting is not only astonishing, but also profoundly humbling. Governments have taken notice. Military and private satellites have been repositioned. Quiet excavation has already begun, though under strict classification. A multinational task force has formed not just to preserve the site, but to decipher its relevance to human development and possibly non-human influence. It isn't just academia and geopolitics reacting with urgency. Cultural theorists and philosophical thinkers are also beginning to weigh in. If Dickens truly uncovered a site of non-natural origin embedded beneath Earth's oldest ice formations, the implications stretch far beyond archaeology. This could change how we understand our own origins. Some postulate that Dickens may have found a kind of time capsule, not of human history, but of intervention, or design, or observation. The structure he describes contains symbols that repeat in fractal form, similar to patterns in nature, such as shell spirals and galactic arms. He described them as alive with purpose, not merely decorative. While those phrases might seem poetic, they match descriptions found in ancient mythologies from diverse cultures, accounts of places that shimmer, hum, and glow beneath the ground. None of this conclusively proves extraterrestrial origin, and scientists remain cautious. But even if the structure is of Earth-based construction, its existence would demand a total rewrite of known history. No known civilization possessed the capacity or reason to build such a hidden, perfectly engineered installation at that location, especially during an epoch when it would have been wholly uninhabitable. This realization has introduced an unsettling hypothesis. Perhaps humanity is not the first advanced species to inhabit this planet. Perhaps Dickens uncovered evidence of something pre-human, something erased not just by time, but by design. Religious communities have reacted with awe and apprehension. For many, the discovery confirms their belief in mysteries greater than science can explain. For others, particularly those espousing more literal interpretations of religious texts, Dickens' find introduces conflict and dissonance. Still, the universal reaction has been one of shock. Whether seen as divine, alien, or ancient technological legacy, the event has sparked a level of reflection unseen in recent memory. Media coverage has been intense, though often controlled. The most sensitive details, especially those related to the sound code and isotope properties, have not been widely disseminated. Still, public knowledge of the discovery has led to an explosion of grassroots investigation, digital detective work, and even pilgrimages to the Arctic perimeter. Academics who once dismissed Dickens as a reckless thrill-seeker have had to walk back their criticisms. The meticulousness of his notes, the care with which he cataloged and recorded everything despite his isolation and suffering, has earned him posthumous respect that borders on reverence. The International Scientific Consortium now working on the site has even named its research hub the Dickens Perimeter. His name, once a byword for hubris and folly, is being redefined as a symbol of discovery and relentless curiosity. Meanwhile, debate continues about whether the chamber he found was just one of many. Dickens' notes mention other geometries beneath the snow detected on his radar. Could there be an entire network of such structures? If so, are they connected, and what is their function? As more of the ice melts and more ground is scanned, the possibility looms larger. This has prompted a broader geopolitical concern. Who owns what is found in unclaimed land? And more provocatively, does any nation have the right to possess something that may predate nations entirely? The future of the site remains uncertain, but one truth has taken hold across the globe. Jimmy Dickens did not die in vain, and he did not simply vanish. He found something extraordinary, something that now forces a reevaluation of humanity's place in the universe. There are discussions, quiet behind closed doors, about how this information might intersect with other unexplained phenomena. Some say Dickens may have inadvertently activated a system dormant for millennia. Others argue the activation came not from him, but from the environmental changes that made his discovery possible. Either way, the outcome is the same. A revelation that stretches the imagination and unsettles the soul. No matter the direction future investigations take, one fact is clear. This discovery is not just an isolated curiosity. It's a hinge on which the door of the unknown has swung open. People around the world are responding in ways that reflect both fear and wonder. Artists, musicians, and storytellers have begun interpreting the event through their mediums, contributing to a growing cultural movement inspired by Dickens's story. In classrooms, debates rage about whether to include Dickens's discovery as part of standard historical curriculum. Social media has erupted with theories, speculation, and support for open-source science efforts to decipher the recovered sound pattern. Yet despite all the global reaction, the core of the story remains profoundly human. A lone man, driven by fascination and instinct, braved the deadliest environment on Earth and found something no one believed existed. He documented it not with grandiosity, but with the meticulous care of someone who knew his time might be short. His final writings, while lacking the polish of formal science, contain truths that scientists with all the backing of modern institutions failed to unearth for decades. In that sense, the story of Jimmy Dickens is not just about the mystery he uncovered. It is about the timeless courage of the human spirit, our drive to seek, to question, to venture beyond the bounds of accepted knowledge. It is about how one individual, armed with little more than instinct and discipline, can tear a hole in the veil of the unknown and reveal a glimpse of something vast and transformative. The enigma surrounding Jimmy Dickens' last days has expanded into something far greater than a cold case conclusion or a thrilling expedition tale. With each layer peeled back from his recovered belongings and field notes, new questions emerge, ones with implications that stretch deep into our scientific limitations, philosophical constructs, and political frameworks. Far from winding down, the mystery has only just begun to reveal its broader complexities, and those complexities are starting to make waves across sectors not traditionally touched by isolated Arctic phenomena. One of the more intriguing developments came not from the chamber's direct location, but from a recent review of Dickens' route leading up to it. Analysis of satellite archives, long stored but never deeply examined due to the absence of contextual triggers, has revealed irregularities in atmospheric patterns that align precisely with his reported locations. Aerial anomalies, now visible thanks to image processing techniques unavailable during the 1990s, show periodic distortions consistent with magnetic lensing. These distortions weren't just isolated to the days of his journey. They appear to form a repeating pattern, cycling every 19.2 days, in a radius that spans several hundred kilometers around the discovery site. The ramifications of such a pattern are significant. Cyclical magnetic interference of this sort implies a powered source, something with either an internal energy system or a harmonization protocol designed to self-regulate in phases. Such mechanics are unknown in nature on this scale, especially in such an inhospitable and isolated region. This has spurred a new field of study: Arctic energetics. Scholars and engineers from fields as disparate as astrophysics and electrical engineering have convened to model what kind of infrastructure could produce such consistent periodic pulses. What they've theorized so far borders on science fiction. The chamber may be part of a vast buried complex whose purpose is to generate or regulate a form of ambient energy, not unlike Tesla's theorized wireless global electricity grid. Dickens may have stumbled upon not just one room, but the edge of a planetary-scale engine. While this cannot yet be confirmed, soil resonance studies and long-range seismic tests have already hinted at dense, symmetrical substructures extending for miles in every cardinal direction. And yet none of this has resulted in clear understanding. If this is a machine, ancient or otherwise, then what is its purpose? It shows no signs of conventional output, no heat radiation, no emissions, no optical discharge. Its power, if such it is, seems to fold inward or function on a principle unfamiliar to modern physics. Several researchers now postulate it might be harnessing or even dampening subatomic activity, a kind of planetary regulator that interfaces with the Earth's core or magnetic poles. This introduces a deeply unsettling proposition. What if this mechanism is not passive? What if it's interactive or reactive? Dickens's arrival and his movement within the chamber may have altered something, not in a dramatic, explosive way, but subtly, like shifting gears in a running engine. If the chamber or complex responds to motion, presence, or environmental change, then everything from rising global temperatures to increased magnetic interference in the polar zones could be affecting its operation. Already, scientists monitoring the region have recorded subtle but unmistakable changes in local electromagnetic behavior. Static levels, once negligible, have risen. Aurora activity above the site has increased in both frequency and irregularity. The sky above Dickens's last known location has become, in essence, less predictable. Whether these are naturally cascading effects or early signs of systemic awakening remains an open question. But the correlation is growing stronger with each passing week. The philosophical and metaphysical implications of these findings are also beginning to stir deep debates among theologians, cultural historians, and metaphysicists. The nature of intelligence, particularly non-human intelligence, has come under renewed scrutiny. If this chamber was built by sentient forces unknown to us, then its designers must have operated with a fundamentally different perception of time, matter, and purpose. The structure is not adorned in human ways. It carries no symbology recognizable to any known civilization. And yet, the repeating patterns and mathematical harmonics found within Dickens's tapes suggest it was built with an intent for comprehension. Not necessarily for us, but for something with the capacity to recognize logic embedded in frequency, geometry, and vibration. Some are calling it the Cold Cathedral, not because of any religious symbolism, but because of the reverence it seems to demand. The way sound behaves within its walls, as recorded by Dickens, is impossible by current architectural standards. Echoes do not behave as they do in human-built spaces. Instead of reflecting sharply, they curve, spiral, and sometimes cancel out entirely in designated zones. This has given rise to the hypothesis that the chamber is a kind of acoustic filter, perhaps a communication node designed to speak or receive not through words but resonance. Interestingly, similar acoustic anomalies have been described in ancient stone structures across the globe, from the Hypogeum of Halsaflieni in Malta to the Pyramid of the Sun in Teotihuacan. These were long dismissed as incidental design elements. Now, in the light of Dickens's discovery, they are being reevaluated. Could Earth itself be embedded with echo chambers that function in unison, or were meant to? Could these ancient human sites be primitive imitations of something older and more profound? If this is true, Dickens may have uncovered not just a machine, but a node in a planetary network, one that predates not just modern civilization, but the entire narrative arc of human history. This theory has galvanized linguists and semioticians who are studying the mathematical patterns in the hum Dickens recorded. There is a growing belief that this hum is not static. It modulates in patterns resembling nonlinear syntax. While not language in a conventional sense, the modulation is suggestive of a structure that adapts and evolves over time. The broader ramifications touch on existential philosophy. If Earth houses such a system, are we accidental inhabitants of an engineered world? Or are we custodians who forgot our duty? These questions, though speculative, are beginning to shape how humanity views its own development. If Dickens had not documented his findings with such empirical precision, this would all be easier to dismiss as elaborate myth or wishful thinking. But his data, flawed and limited as it is by his solitary condition, holds up under scrutiny. It resists easy debunking. Meanwhile, the geopolitical impact has intensified. Competing international research teams are being sent to the Arctic under the pretext of climate research. But military satellites confirm that equipment far beyond ice core drills is being deployed. Nations are treating this not as a scientific curiosity, but as a potential strategic asset. The potential of an energy source more advanced than anything currently understood cannot be overstated. If the chamber's technology can be interpreted and replicated, it may usher in a new era of energy independence, or spark a new arms race built not on warheads, but on waveforms and resonance frequencies. The ethics of exploration and extraction have come to the forefront as well. What right does any government have to dissect something it does not understand, especially if it predates our civilizations? Some voices argue for complete moratoriums on excavation. Others call for transparency through international oversight. But the world has not historically been known for restraint in the face of technological supremacy. The risk of a single nation gaining exclusive control over whatever lies beneath the ice is very real. And with that comes the specter of misuse, distortion, or irreversible damage to a system we can neither replicate nor replace. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, could you leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on the Jimmy Dickens mystery finally being solved? What's next? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.